Okay, today we're going to be looking at some real world problems and we're going to calculate the percents of these different situations. Now, the method we're going to use today is called the proportion method. And we're going to start right off with an example problem. You can pause this video at any time to write the title and this first example problem down, and you can just play it when you're ready. So buttermilk has a total of 20 trails. 15 of those trails are green runs. What percent of buttermilk's trails are green runs? So if I was a tourist visiting Aspen and I wanted to know about buttermilk and I asked you, hey, I would say, hey, I'm a really beginner skier. What percent of buttermilk's trails are green runs? Because I want to know if it's a good mountain for me or not. So by giving them the percentage, that gives them an idea about how many green runs are made up in buttermilk. So a nice real world local example here. The method we're going to use to solve this problem, what percent? First, we're going to use the proportion method. We're going to use this for a few days. I'm going to introduce another method later, but for now, all we need to know is the proportion method. And the key to the proportion method is this: part over whole equals percent over 100. This is the proportion we're going to use over and over again to help us solve these percent problems. So start to memorize this proportion. Part over whole equals percent over 100. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at our example problem and we are going to plug in the different parts to our percent proportion. Let me show you what I mean. So all of your problems need to look like this. Part, whole, percent. These are the different components that we're going to pull out of our example problem and we're going to plug into our proportion. So let's identify them first. And it's really important that we go in these steps instead of just going right over to our proportion. What's our part? Actually, let's start with our whole. So the whole is the total amount that you're talking about. And I've laid that out for you nicely here. Buttermilk has a total of 20 trails. So that is going to be our whole. So I'm going to fill that in. The total amount, our whole, is 20. What's the part that we're talking about? Well, the part that we're talking about are the green runs. And we know that we have 15 of those trails are green runs. So 15 is going to be that part that we're going to use that's a part of the whole of buttermilk. So my part is 15. And my percent, do we know our percent? No. What percent of buttermilk's trails are green runs? So we don't know that. So as always, if we don't know something, that's an unknown, and that's a variable that we need to solve for. So that is going to be x. Part is 15, whole is 20, percent is x. I got that all from our example problem here. After we have established these components, we're going to plug them in to our key over here. So that's going to look like, don't worry about this example problem down here, that's going to come next. We're going to fill in this to here. So what's our part? Well, we laid it out so nicely. That's 15. Our whole, that's 20. Okay, so we got our left side fill in, part over whole, part over whole. Percent, do we know what our percent is? No, but we do know that it's x, so we're going to leave that as x. And then 100. This 100 is always going to be in the problem, no matter what you're dealing with. 100 is always going to go in that denominator on the right side. So here's our proportion. We've set it up. Part over whole equals percent over 100. This should look really familiar to what we've been doing for the last few weeks of setting up a proportion and solving for the unknown. In order to do that, we're going to look to see if there's a relationship. Is there a relationship? Yes. Remember, it's really important that we're remembering all the factors of 100. That's going to help us a lot. 2, 5, 4, 10, 20, 25, 50. All those numbers are factors. So whenever we see one of those magic factors of 100, we're going to know that we can easily multiply. So 20 times what equals 100? Well, 20 times 5, because I know that 20 and 5 are factors. So there's my relationship. Sweet. Let's apply that same relationship here. And we just need to do 15 times 5. I'm going to do that on the side here. 15 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 2 is 7. So 5 times 15 is 25. 75 is my x. But in this case, we're trying to figure out our percent. So it's 75% is our answer. 75% of the trails, of the total trails on buttermilk, are green. So there's our answer right there. 75% of buttermilk's trails are green runs.